There's no shortcut. There's no hack to being a great guitar player or a great pianist or really a great speaker. You got to put in the reps. The goal of a leader should be to create more leaders. The people that are sincere and help other people are always remembered.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Making Man. Today, we have Mr. Scott McKain with us, and we're so excited to have him on.
Thanks, Scott, for joining us. We appreciate you being here.
Oh, it's my privilege. I've been excited about this, and I love what you're doing with your podcast, and it's an
Thanks.
honor to be invited. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Let me intro you real quick. Scott McKain is a globally celebrated business speaker, best-selling author, and renowned expert on customer experience and organizational distinction. He has delivered over 2,000 presentations across 36 countries, inspiring audiences in every major industry to create compelling connections and stand out from the competition. Scott is a Hall of Fame speaker. He's author of multiple #1 best-selling business books and currently serves as corporate educator in residence at High Point University. Scott, I'd like to start this off, and then Axel will fire some questions, but if you could talk to us about what inspired you as a young man to do what you're doing today?
Well, I appreciate the question. I've thought a lot about that. You know, the older I get, I had a big birthday recently, and so I've been thinking a lot about that, and it's really a combination of two factors, I think, and one was my folks ran the little local grocery store in Crothersville, Indiana. There was a little radio station 8 miles south, literally in a house trailer in a cow pasture. And they hired me on my 14th birthday, not because they thought I had a good voice or because I thought it'd be good. It was so my mom and dad would buy more commercials on that radio station if the kid was
For the grocery store?
was
Yeah,
a
that's
disc
great.
jockey, right? So that gave me a great experience, but also I was involved with a student organization. And being from a rural community, it was FFA, which then stood for Future Farmers of America. Now there's 1 million FFA members in large cities and small towns involved in every aspect of agribusiness. But it gave me the opportunity to compete in speaking contests. But I remember the summer between my 8th grade and freshman year, sitting on the back row at Loeb Playhouse at Purdue University, hearing a speaker talking about goals. And it was the first time I'd ever heard anything about that. And it impacted my life in so many ways, but it was the first time I saw beyond the horizons of my small community, that I could do more, be more, or that I would have a degree of control over what would happen to me in my life. And so that was kind of those two combined, the student organization and the job I had after school. Those were the two things that contributed so much to everything that's happened to me later in life.
No, thanks for that.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible. I grew up in a similar small town, and
Oh,
FFA was prevalent, and I don't know if
you
you had
bet.
4-H and
Yeah,
all those, like, clubs and things like that were
yeah.
really
We
prominent.
we joke we really didn't live in downtown Crothersville. We went towards town to hunt.
Yeah.
we, we were way out in the sticks, but I think there's something that you get growing up in a small town. There's advantages every way, but I think there's an advantage you get growing up in a rural community that really makes an impact on your life and gives you a chance. But you know, it's really what opportunities you take advantage of is that's the key
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, we used to get a day of school off Axe because so many kids it was during the county fair, and so many kids showed animals that
Uh,
they just let them have the day off, and we get the day off for, like, hunting, the first day of hunting. Yeah, it
yeah.
was like a national
That's
holiday, but
amazing.
locally. Uh, you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Good.
So, Mr. Scott, who would you say is your greatest mentor, and what did they teach you?
That's a great question, Axel. I am so grateful to the influence of now his name is kind of crazy. His name was Grady Nutt. That was his real name. Last name was
Wow.
Nutt. And Grady was a speaker, an author. He had been a minister in Kentucky in small town, and he kept getting so many invitations to speak, not just in the church but at civic affairs. And then he made a TV appearance on a syndicated TV show back in the day, and it just took off. And he became a very renowned, well-known humorist and speaker at that time. I was speaking at the Illinois FFA convention. He was speaking that night, and I'd heard of him, and I couldn't wait to hear him. But unbeknownst to me, he had slipped in just to kind of get a feel for the room and the PA system and all that. And he heard my speech. Now I'm 19 years old, and he came up to me and he said, "You ought to be doing this for a living." And I didn't know what he meant. But the other thing he said that most people don't say, a lot of people say, "Oh, you ought to do this, you ought to do that." He said, "And I'll help." And he did. But
Hmm.
the greatest lesson that he taught me, Axel, was this: I admired him so much, I wanted to be him. I changed how I spoke so I would sound like him. I copied everything that he did because I just sincerely admired him so much. And he took me out to lunch one day and he gave me the greatest advice I ever got. He said, "Scott, I am flattered by how much you respect and like what I do." But he said, "If you're trying to be the best Grady nut you can be, you'll always the best you can hope for is second place.
Hmm.
Your job in life is to be the best Scott McKain that you could possibly be because you have a corner on that market. Be the best you that you can be. Learn from other people, adapt what they do that you like, but don't try to be someone else." And that was a big aha for me because I really was. I just admired him and respected him so much. I was an impersonator. I was an imitator. I wasn't being authentic of who I am and what I
Mhm.
believe. And that was the greatest advice I ever got. And that's what I
Yeah.
encourage folks all the time is, learn from other people, grow from what they can teach you, have mentors that help guide the way, but don't try to be them. Try
Because
try to try to take that and learn from it.
I've had some friends at my old school, like, a year before, they were like, we were best friends, and the year after, they just completely changed, and I
Uh,
kept noticing, like, "Hey, he kinda sounds like this famous guy," or
yeah.
"He kinda sounds like this," and it's like, I don't know, it just feels different,
Yeah,
and it
you're
feels like
right,
they just, like, are, like, a whole different person.
that's a great point, and that's one of the things I think that happens as we're growing older is we're trying to find ourselves, and I
Mhm.
think that was part of the thing as well is it was hard for me to be myself because I didn't know who I really was. I was still trying to discover that, but it's almost like, the way the bird learns how to fly is to get pushed out of the nest, and that's what Grady was doing. He was pushing me out of the nest to move me to really find myself more as opposed to try to be somebody else.
Mhm.
Scott,
And
that
by
that
by the way, what excuse me, can I just add one other thing? I
yeah.
really respect what you just said, Axel, and what you said was how perceptive you were in noticing the
Hmm.
change in others, because that's one thing I wish I could change about, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, but one of the things I would change about my past is that what you tolerate is, in a way, what you endorse. My buddy Larry Winget talks about that, and if you tolerate friends behaving in a particular way, you're almost endorsing that behavior. So part of what you have to do, and this is some of the hardest choices that you ever have to make in life, even as an adult, is who do you want to be around? Who do you want to associate with? What do you want surrounding you and as a part of your life? And sometimes we have to draw the line, but we don't draw the line if our antenna aren't up and we're not noticing. So
Right.
compliments to you that you noticed that and saw that and you were aware of that, because that's the first step in deciding who you want in your circle.
Mhm.
That's so
Yeah,
good.
thank you.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's good. Hey,
You're welcome.
Scott, in a lot of your material, you talk about this concept of distinction.
Yeah,
And it's almost like a good segue of having like this distinct owning yourself. That's your kind of own unique distinction amongst the masses. But can you
yeah,
maybe elaborate on that and why you think that concept is so important and maybe explain to Axel exactly what that is?
yeah. Well, what it came from a personal situation in a way. My first wife was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And so I put my speaking career and everything I was doing kinda on hold, to be her caregiver, and we
Mhm.
we didn't have kids, and we had just moved to a new city, and we didn't have a bunch of friends, and so, I just had to be the caregiver, and after she passed away, um, I was 7 figures in medical debt, and
Mhm.
I had to figure out how I could fix it. So I started trying to research how could I stand out more with what I did so that I could get more business and rebuild what I was doing. And I couldn't find a lot of material back then at that point. So, the blinding flash, the obvious was, if I'm having trouble finding this, maybe there's other people in the same situation. I'll
Yeah.
research it and I'll write about it. Well, then the first thing I found, and I'm sorry to go so deep in the weeds here, but the
No,
first
it's
thing I
good.
found was about differentiation, right? But what occurred to me was, hey, if I slapped every client in the face, I'd be really different.
Yeah.
Right?
Nobody
I
does
mean,
that.
yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean they're gonna do business with me, right? It doesn't mean
Right.
that I've done the right thing with them. So I thought there has to be something higher than differentiation, and that's where I
Hmm.
came up with the concept of distinction. And what distinction means is, it means you're not only unique in the marketplace, but that uniqueness means something to the people that you wanna serve,
Hmm.
right? It's not just what I'm doing to make me different. It's how can I be unique in a way that serves you better? So that to me was the definition of distinction, is trying to find a way that I could create uniqueness in the marketplace, and that uniqueness was of value to my clients and the prospects and the people that I wanted to serve. And that's really the focus, is when the focus is on you and your needs and all of that, you never connect with clients, and you never connect with other people nearly to the degree that you will if you're focusing on what their challenges are and what their needs are, and how you can be of service to them in a unique way.
Hmm.
So
Mm,
that to me is the concept of distinction.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
mm,
You bet. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
yeah. So what can I start doing now to help me become a great public speaker like you?
First of all, you're kind to say that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I'll tell you, and boy, this is going to sound, I'm going to sound like the biggest nerd you've ever heard of here, but I don't remember a night other than I remember I didn't do it on prom night. I'm sure there were others that I just don't recall, but I don't remember a night that I didn't stand in my room at home and give 2 speeches and recorded them and listened to them every night.
Wow.
And the 2 speeches were, one was a prepared speech for a contest or something like that I was gonna be involved in. And the other was, I disciplined myself every night to see something in my room and then give a 3 to 5-minute speech on it. So it might be a coat hanger in my closet. It might be, whatever. And I wanted to learn not only how to speak, but how to think on my feet.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And it it's it it's to me, it was like learning how to play the piano or learning how to play guitar, right? I mean, you learn the fundamentals and then you practice, and there's no shortcut, there's no hack to being a great guitar player or a great pianist or really a great speaker. You gotta put in the reps, right? I mean, hey, you walk somewhere and you see some guy that's really jacked, he's got muscles everywhere. Hey, he's probably been to the gym and done a lot of reps, right? I mean,
Mm,
you gotta
Yeah.
do the reps, and whether it's speaking or bodybuilding or playing a musical instrument, you do the reps. So, one of the first things I would suggest is, hey, just get out your iPhone and stand in your room and practice giving a speech, and then listen back to it and think about, okay, how could I have said that better? And one thing that's available now that wasn't available then is, you can also have a program and transcribe what you just said and read it and go, "Oh gosh, that's not really what I meant. Here's how I could say that better," and work on improving that. One
mhm.
other little quick story. So I was running for state FFA president, right?
Mhm.
And, they have what's called a nominate committee. You go in and do your interviews, and typically it was questions about agriculture, about FFA. But I walk in and it's the final interview before they decide who's gonna be selected to run for state office. And they held up a keychain and they said, "Give a 3-minute speech on this keychain and how it relates to leadership." I'd done that in my room. I'd already practiced that,
You're like,
right?
I've been preparing this forever.
I'd been exactly
Yeah.
right. And so the thing was, the keys were the individual members, and no 2 were exactly alike. They were all different, but the ring is what united them, and the ring stood for leadership, that it could take all these very different keys and unite them together in a meaningful whole,
That's so
and
good.
I won state president, right? But that's the
That's
value. That's
amazing.
I've never told that story before, but that's the value of practice is
Mhm.
it's I'd put in the reps, and
Yeah,
and that's the key. What you're doing right now is you're putting in the reps. You are
true.
interviewing, you're learning, you're talking. It's
Yeah.
all part of what creates a very successful future.
So, Mr. Scott,
Yeah.
did anyone inspire you to do that, or was it just like that on your own behalf?
When I heard that speaker that I was telling you about, his name was Jim Beard from Oklahoma, still remember. Uh, I had never heard anyone speak like that. And one of the great things that student organization continues to do to this day is bring in top speakers. So by the time I was a high school senior, I'd sat in audiences and heard Zig Ziglar, the top motivational speakers of that time. I'd heard Jim Rohn, who was Tony Robbins' mentor.
Mhm.
I had personally sat in audiences and heard them. And so I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I mean, is the ability to stand on a stage. And I've got buddies in the music business, and it's kind of funny because they go, "Wait a minute, you stand there by yourself? You don't even have a instrument? You don't even
Amazing.
have a" and that's part of what I love about it. It's so cool that it's just you and your talent, your wits, and your intelligence trying to get a crowd to do what you hope they will do, whether it's to motivate it or to get them thinking about something or to get them comedians want to get them to laugh, whatever it might be. To me, that is a very unique opportunity and very special privilege.
Well, Scott, you have a powerful message, but also like a powerful voice. The way it sounds.
Mm.
I've listened to some of your stuff and I can,
Right.
if I was in another room, I would know it was you. Is that something that you worked on, or was that just a natural gift, this booming voice that you have?
Well, I think part of it is just a blessing,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you saying that. But the other part that I've realized is okay. So I started in radio on my 14th birthday. Now think about that for a second. Do you remember the first time you heard yourself on a
Oh,
recording
yeah.
and you're like, "That's not me. That doesn't sound like me."
Yeah.
Well, for 4 hours every night, I had headphones on trying to make my voice, and I could hear the way I really sounded, trying to make my voice sound like a man, right?
Mm.
Rather than a 14-year-old, right? I've got some they'll never be posted, but I've got some horrible takes because I'm 14 doing play-by-play basketball and my voice is changing. So I'm like, "There's the shot. It's good." My voice is back. Oh, it's horrible. It's terrible, right? But again, it is you learn how to use your instrument, and for me, the
Mhm.
voice is my instrument, and so, I was fortunate. I think to answer the question, I think I was training my voice, but I didn't really know what I was doing. My dad had a very beautiful singing voice. I can't sing a lick, but I think part of it is a blessing, but then part of it is it's what you do with it.
So
That's
good.
great, yeah. So, what daily habit or mindset do you credit the most for the success that you've had?
Wow, that's a great question. Um Uh, I really think that spending time each day thinking about how I can improve my message and my content. I'll give you an example. I did a post today on LinkedIn that I'd
Mhm.
been working about a week on, and it's a lot more direct. Maybe confrontational might be too strong of a word, but it's a little more
Mhm.
aggressive than what I typically am, but yet I really believe it. It's about companies that say, "Oh, we're like family," and then they fire people in an email. Uh,
Mhm.
the lack of congruency between what the leaders say and what they actually do.
Hmm.
And I'd worked on that every day for, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 days, just trying to get everything right because it's a little different than what I typically it's a little more aggressive than what I typically am on my post, but I really sincerely believe it. And I think it's that I work every day on the content, and I'd like to think I work almost every day on my speaking as well. There's still so much to learn, you know?
Yeah.
There's the old story, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but there's the old story of the 90-year-old violinist, and his neighbor heard him practicing, and he said, "Why in the world?" The neighbor says, "Why in the world are you still practicing? You're a virtuoso, you're 90 years old." He said, "I think I'm improving."
Yeah, there always is
And
room for improvement.
that's what I wanna be. I wanna get to be 90 and still improving. I don't
Yeah.
think, there's an old line that school is never out for the pro, and I believe that. School is never out for the true professional. They can continue to learn and continue to contribute and continue to grow.
Mhm.
I believe that. Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned, like, looking at, companies. You work with a lot of executives globally.
Yeah.
Are there when you look at these top people that have become top in their field, are there traits that stand out to you that they're like, this is where it probably started. These are traits that a young man should have if they want to excel in their field?
Boy, that's a great question, and, there's a lot of differences in people, but
Yeah.
when you said that, the first thing I thought of was, I'm going back to FFA a lot. Actually, I'm going back to my, being really young here for a while, but so I'm 19 years old, and I'm a national officer of FFA, and so part of what they had the officers do is we would go out, and we would thank the leaders of the companies that were contributing to the organization. So, I get to go to Detroit and meet the chairman of General Motors, and he took me in the boardroom, and it's the 2 of us sitting there, and I'm trying to think, what do you ask the chairman of General Motors? And GM at that time was the biggest company in America, right? So what do
Yeah.
what do you say? And I said, "Mr. Murphy, GM is the largest employer in the country, or one of them right now. There were probably 1,000 people got hired the day that you got hired many years ago. What made you the right person to be the chairman of General Motors?" And he said, "I realized I could never get promoted if there wasn't somebody on my team that could do my job as well or better than I could." Right? Why would they promote me if nobody else could fill that position? So he said, "I started investing all my time making the people around me better than me." And so once I did that, then they could move me to someplace else, and then I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again. So he said, over my career, by the time it got to between me and another person to be the next chairman of General Motors, I had such a reservoir of goodwill built up among the people that worked here that they obviously wanted me because I had helped so many other people, where the other person kind of stepped on and played
Yeah.
politics and stabbed people in the back to get to the top. This guy had gotten there by helping other people. And and that to me is the essence of great leadership. You know, my but we're acquainted. I hate to say friend because we're not he's not on my speed dial, but there's a guy named John Maxwell,
Mhm.
and he's an expert in leadership. And one of the things that John says is the the goal of a leader should be to create more leaders. And of the CEOs that I respect, admire, and that I've encountered who are just extraordinary people, it's that she or he is focused on creating more leaders. Because what organization goes, "Oh, we got too many leaders. We don't need any more. Our people," every organization needs more leaders. Every
True.
organization needs more people who can contribute to the success of that company or that association or that group. So the goal of a leader should be to create more leaders, and of CEOs that I meet, that's the characteristic that they have in common if they're really successful.
Mm.
So true. That is so true. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm.
You
So,
bet. Thank you.
are there any other topics that we didn't cover that you want to discuss?
Oh, what a great question. I just wanna reemphasize, one more time. Sorry to be repetitive, but
Oh, it's
That's
great.
just
fine.
one more time. It distinction comes from the focus on others, not yourself. And the success of a leader is helping other people be leaders and focusing on others, not your own ego or not yourself. And I think that's a that would wouldn't that be a great legacy to have? You
Oh,
know, is
so
that
true.
is that whenever in life our life is coming to an end, that people could say about us, "That person inspired me. That
Yeah,
person helped me be all I could be. That person motivated me to become the best person, with my own identity that I could be, to find myself and to be the best me that I could be." I think that's the highest calling for any and all of us.
Scott, a lot of people think of leaders as getting served everything, everything's,
Yeah,
but it's the opposite of what you're saying is leaders are there because they serve and they stay there and they go even higher
yeah,
because they continue to serve others around them,
yeah. And
right?
I think it's yeah, you're exactly right, and I think it's unfortunate sometimes that the attention goes to the egocentric, bombastic, loudmouth leader, um, and I think part of that is, when I was in radio and TV, people used to say there's no story tonight on the news about dog bites man, but if man bites dog, now we got a story, right? We we
Yeah,
we gravitate to what's unusual, and
Mm.
true.
those folks are unusual because they aren't the typical leader that gets results, but the problem is they get attention. But, every dog has his day, and the bombastic, arrogant leader typically sooner or later has some kind of fall from grace. But the people that are sincere and help other people are always remembered.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Hey, Scott, as we close here, how do people get in touch with you? What's the best way? You have so
Oh
much out there.
oh, you're kind. Thanks for asking. Best way is just go to my website. It's just scottmckain.com. By the way, my last name is spelled McKain, a
Yep.
little different than the late senator that ran for president,
Yeah,
but, it's McKain. Everything is there, and I hope you don't mind me putting in a plug. In February, I got a new book coming out. It's called Beyond Distinction, and it's gonna look at
love
how
it.
AI has changed things and what
Mhm.
leaders do in this world that's so turbulent, and how we keep grounded, how we keep our sense of values and that sense of where we come from and what's right, even though the world around us is speeding up and getting turbulent and going crazy. So
I love it. We'll put links to the website
oh, thanks.
on
Oh, I
when we
appreciate it.
post this, and I think that's it. We can't thank you enough for the
Yeah.
knowledge that you've shared and,
Oh, you're so kind.
everything that you talked about. It's been great. Thank you.
Oh, it's been my privilege. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I look forward to staying in touch. And Axel, I look forward to following your success in the future as well.